Hello everyone, it's Chief Troy again with some more IR cooking. And today I'm going to make some cookies. And these cookies are a combination of chocolate chip and toffee bits. It's a really tasty little treat. It's not your conventional chocolate chip cookie, but nonetheless it's quite tasty. So I'll give it a go. So we're going to start with our ingredients, and of course, just so that everybody knows, I'm making a double batch this time, so everything is double. All right, so we have 4 eggs. Normally you would use 2. We have 4 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 2 cups of brown sugar. I'm using light brown sugar, as you can tell. 1 cup of granulated white sugar, and try not to use the ones that are the sugar that's too, I'll call it chunky, if you want to call it that. The bigger pieces, the real granulated fine stuff is better for baking cookies. That's my experience so far. You get a teaspoon of baking soda and 2 teaspoons of salt. 4.5 cups of just all-purpose white flour. You can use other flour if you wanted to, but probably wouldn't be quite the same. However, it's all up to your own taste. So in there we have 1 cup of chocolate chips. You can use whatever kind you want. I'm happy using semi-sweet this time. And also have 1 cup and a little bit. I just didn't want to throw out the little tiny bit that was left in the package, and it's toffee bits. All right, and of course butter. Using 2 cups of butter. A single batch recipe just calls for 1 cup. Now I dice them up, as you can tell, into little squares because it's much easier to blend together and get it all mixed together. You want your butter room temperature, not melted, but you certainly don't want it to be fridge temperature because it's going to be a lot harder to mix in with all your ingredients, and you want it to blend and make a nice smooth mixture. Alright, so you want it room temperature, as I said. And of course, well, being up here in IR, you can't forget your drink. Alright, so we'll get right to getting all of this going. Alright, so one thing I forgot to mention there, just preheat the oven to 350. Alright, that way it's all ready to go by the time you got everything mixed together. Or at least it should be. And of course I got my cookie sheet here, and I also have my electric hand mixer. Much easier if you use a stand mixer, like with the paddle. It's so much easier, but I don't have one of those, so hand mixer it is. Alright, so first thing you want to do, you want to take your flour, and you want to take your baking soda and your salt, and just put it in with your flour. Alright, just so it's in there. And then after that, you just want to take a whisk and just kind of mix it together, okay? That way it's incorporated into the flour, and it's got it's got a good mix in there, and it's not, when you put it in with your rest of your batter, it's not a big clump of salt or a big clump of baking soda all in one spot, and you got to mix a little more. It's already incorporated in there. All right, so just take that and just set it off to the side, and it'll be ready for after. All right. So now you want to get all of your other ingredients in your bowl. I just happen to be using a bigger bowl today because it's a double batch, so the other size bowls I have don't really fit. So just take your sugars, your 2 cups of brown sugar, and your 1 cup of white sugar. Put them in your bowl, and just take a whisk and kind of just blend them together. And you want to do that because you want to try to eliminate any clumps that are going to get into your brown sugar, because it does clump up. All right. And if I didn't mention it before, your brown sugar, the way you measure your brown sugar is you press it into your cup so that you get a good full cup of brown sugar. That's how you measure your brown sugar. You always pack it. All right. Unless the recipe specifically states not to do that. However, that's pretty normal. So then you want to take your butter, and you want to start putting your butter inside with your sugar. Now, because I cut it up into little cubes, it's going to be a little bit easier. And so I don't like to put it all in right away. Put a little bit at a time. Just get some sugar coated on all of the little butter pieces that you made. And that way it will be a little easier when you start blending it together. Trust me. Alright. So just put it in there. Put your bowl in the sink. Now that you got your butter kind of coated with sugars, you can start taking your hand mixer now, and on low speed for now until it gets incorporated a little bit better. Just start mixing it together so that your butter gets blended with all your sugars. So you'll do that for a few minutes. And you'll start noticing that your butter will start breaking up from the little cubes that you had. And it's going to start getting incorporated with your sugars. So from there, unless you got a stand mixer, it makes it a lot easier, of course. Then you got to start doing your putting your eggs in there. Okay, so I'm just going to wash my hands for a second. Alright, just had to get that sugar off my hands. So now you just want to take your eggs, crack your eggs, put your eggs in there, and your eggs in there, that's what's going to really give it is going to help it get great creamy. Alright, put all 4 of them in. Don't be scared to only put one in and blend it and then put another and blend it. Nah, you don't gotta do that stuff. Just put all 4 in. And of course, be careful not to get any shells inside there. Kind of adds to the crunchiness of the cookie, I guess, if you get it in there. And don't forget to put in your vanilla as well, okay? Your 4 teaspoons of vanilla. Alright, so once you got that into your bowl, then you just use your mixer again and get it all, start mixing it more again. Alright. So while you're doing this, your oven is still going to be preheating, okay? Which is what you want it to do. And blending mixing your butter together is going to take it might take a few minutes. It all depends on how well you did the little cubes, if you did them small enough. I'm going to mix it up. Rather than have you watch me for 5 minutes, I'm just going to pause the video. Alright, now that I got it all incorporated and it's fairly well mixed. I mean, there's still a little bit of, you can still see little tiny bits of butter. But it's no big deal. It'll just make the cookies a little bit more light and fluffy, really, to be honest with you. So now you just want to take your flour and start incorporating your flour in with it. You can use your hand mixer for a little while, but once it starts to get really thick and thickened up, you'll probably have to use like a wooden spoon or a hard spatula or something just to start mixing it together a little harder. So start adding your flour. Don't put it all in at once, because you'll notice you'll start making a mess and it'll go flying everywhere. And if it's flying everywhere, you want to be careful you don't get it in your drink. Alright, so make sure you put your drink out of the way. Alright, so start mixing it up. And when you're putting the flour in there and you're mixing the flour in with your batter, what happens is a lot of times if there's any chunks of butter anyway, it will start, because the flour makes it thicker, it'll start incorporating in there and it'll start blending in with the flour, and the butter will incorporate well enough. Alright, so put a little bit more. Of course, like I said, I'm making a double batter because I didn't know if I really wanted to make toffee chips or I should say toffee bits or chocolate chip cookies tonight. So I said, oh well, I'm gonna make a combination. And the fact that the toffee bits and the chocolate together, well, if you think of what a score bar tastes like with the cookie center, and you got the toffee and the chocolate, is very similar to taste wise anyway. So I was like, well, it's almost like a score cookies. So I thought anyway, so I figured I would try it out. So this is the first time I tried doing that kind of a combination, and so we'll see what it looks like, what it tastes like anyway later on. But it promises to be pretty good. So don't worry if as you're adding your flour to it and it starts thickening up, your blender or your mixer is going to start getting, well, a little overworked, or at least it's going to feel like it. If you think that your mixer is going to you know, burn out on you, whatever, just stop using it and use a spoon or wooden spoon or whatever to start mixing the rest of it together. All right. Now, obviously, depending on what kind of hand mixer you got or what kind of stand mixer you're using, that's going to make all the difference in the world as to how well it's going to blend together and mix together. All right, so I got it almost all together. There's the last little bit of flour now. So let's incorporate the last little bit. Now, I don't know if you can hear my hand mixer. Every once in a while, when I really dive it deep in there, she starts to bog down and slow down, and you can really tell that it's working a little extra hard. But it's not a very expensive hand mixer, so it's not designed for heavy duty stuff. And I just decided to make a double batch and just try it out and see what happens. I should be careful though, because in the past I have burnt out a hand mixer doing just the same thing. So you just got to be careful, because it doesn't take much to really burn out these little motors on these mixers. Alright. It's going pretty good. It's not bad. It's almost all incorporated in there now. Alright, so once all the flour is in there, you want to take your beaters out of there and spin it fast and make sure it all comes out of there, off the beaters. So what you want to do now is just take your spatula along the sides, if you can. It's going to be pretty thick and sticky, alright, so your spatula might not be the most ideal thing to use. What you probably want to use is a wooden spoon. Alright, so you just want to take your wooden spoon now and get ready to add your chips. Now I'm just taking it down off the sides a little bit here, just so that it's a little bit less that you gotta worry about. So now you just take your chips and put them in and just mix them all together. Alright, so you try to get, you know, so that there's chips, a fair amount of chips anyway, at least, you know, yeah, you want several chips in each cookie, okay? You don't want to cheap out on your cookies. So mix them together. Now this part here, you really, I mean, unless you got a really good stand mixer like a KitchenAid or, you know, one of those industrial ones, you'll really have to do this by hand mixing it together. All right, it's a little bit of a chore. Use a lot of elbow grease, but in the end it's worth it, because you know, cookies are a great treat to have. And especially if you got any small kids or whatever. I know my kids, when they were small, they used to love any kind of cookies and any kinds of, especially when their grandmother used to make them cookies or any kind of treats. They love that. All right, so there you go. Once now it's all incorporated together, and you got like a big ball of batter, basically. All right, so now you just need to put them on a cookie sheet. And when you put them on a cookie sheet, you just want to take a tablespoon, basically. All right, and you want to put them. Now you can just take them and drop them on there if you want. That's how most people make their cookies. They just take a little scoop, they put it on there, and that's fine. It'll work just as good as anything else. However, for me personally, I don't like doing that. I like taking them and making a little ball. Now, making the size of them is going to depend entirely on you. You don't have to make them an inch. You don't got to make it 2 inches. You can make them as big as you want or as small as you want. All right. Everybody has their own, their own idea of how big they want their cookies. I like to make them so that you can kind of see approximately how big it is. It's about 1.25 inches, almost 1.5 inches round. All right. So that's about the size I make my cookies. All right. So then you just roll them after you pick them up. All right, just get them all together. And you want to make 12 of them, of course. Now, depending on what kind of cookie sheet you got, I know some people have these larger cookie sheets. You can make probably 2 dozen on them at the same time. All right. So that's entirely will depend on your cookie sheet, of course. I know that typically the one that I have, which I don't have it here, I can make about, I can usually do 15 cookies comfortably on it. All right, but it all depends on the size of the size of cookie I make. If they are a little bit bigger, yeah, you're probably more comfortable just making 12. But if you're just making slightly smaller ones than what I am right now, you can easily put 15, maybe even 18 on there. But like I said, all depends on the size of your cookie sheet, which is fine. It's not really a big deal. All right, so just keep all 12 of them going, and you want to make them, like I said, you want to space them out on your tray, on your cookie tray. But say safely 2 inches apart would be really good if you had that space, if you have that amount of room. But I mean, you can probably easily leave them like 1.5 inches or so apart, and it's probably good enough. But 2 inches is a little bit safer. And when I say safer, it means that when they cook and they spread out, and they fall down into the cookie shape, they're not going to touch each other and make themselves not round, and they'll be all like oblong and square and whatever else because they touched each other. So you just want to get them together as best you can. Try to make them so that there's a good, you got a good amount of, in this case, chocolate chip and toffee bits in each cookie, so that you're not just eating like the cookie batter, right? You want to taste those bits of chocolate and those bits of in this case, bits of chocolate and the bits of toffee. And you really want them to, you really want to taste them. So once you got your 12 in there, I highly recommend, if you do it the way I do, where you roll them with your hands, just rinse your hands off before you actually lift your sheet up. All right. So now you want to put them in middle rack at 350. And you want to put them in there anywhere from 9 to 12 minutes, really. And I'll put the timer on here. I'll set my timer for 11 minutes. Because I remember the last time I made cookies at this location, the cookies took about 11, 12 minutes or so, give or take a minute. So that being said, as I said in my other videos, every stove is a little bit different. So don't go by me telling you 9 minutes, for example. In your stove, it might take you 8 minutes. In your stove, it might take you 14 minutes. So like I said, every stove is a little bit different. Just be wary of that. And hopefully they will come out to perfection, which we'll find out in about 11 minutes. All right, I'll be back when they're done. All right, so the timer just went off, and I just took the cookies out of the oven. So I'm gonna show them to you very quick. That way I don't burn my fingers. Put on the other one. So there they are. All right, they look pretty good. It's not bad. They turned out a little bit better than what I probably was anticipating. They smell really. You can really smell the taffy. I mean, you can always smell chocolate chip cookie when you're cooking it, but the taffy really, you can really smell that, especially after it's been cooked. All right, so so what you really want to do now is, if you have a cooling rack, a metal cooling rack, that's the best, of course. Just take the cookies off the sheet and put them on the rack. You don't want to leave them on the cookie sheet too long, because they will continue to cook, especially if the cookie sheet stays warm. Now, I did have to, because remember I said I turned the oven on for 11 minutes. I put the timer on. Now, I did have to turn it on for another 3 minutes with this stove. So a total time of about 14 minutes, give or take, you know, a couple seconds in and out kind of thing. And they look like they turned out really well. And so I'm just going to take them off. I'll just take the first one off and just kind of just break it open, just to kind of show you just how like soft and easy that just falls apart. All right, so, and that's what you're really looking for in a really nice soft cookie. So I'll give it a little test. Oh, wow. Can you ever taste the taffy bits? I wasn't expecting it to taste so much of it, but yeah, I was really expecting it to be more like chocolate chip cookie flavor. But yeah, the taffy is really wow, exceptional. All right, well, that's my cookie for tonight. Chocolate chip taffy bits. If you really would like to try making that, it's very simple. It's not hard at all. I highly recommend it. And in the meantime, as always, enjoy and cheers. Have a good night.